comes part 5 of my research in relation to Iona and the St. Columbas prophecies. We were looking at Ian Fleming, and we're on page 105. And we're looking at the research of Ian Fleming, talking about his James Bond novels. James Bond being an office of the Secret Intelligence Service, commonly known as MI6. Bond is also known by the number of 007 as a commander in the Royal Navy Volunteer Reserve. So what about the Fleming and Iona Island connection? So when you type in Fleming, Iona Island, you get various articles that become relevant. You have the Fleming Collection article regarding artwork, Green Sea, Iona, Samuel, John Peploe. Peploe fixated on the north end of the island with its views to Mull, repeatedly capturing the visions of rare beauty. And here's that painting on the left, talking about it. You've also on the right here got an article, a book being sold of What the Future Holds. A beautiful depiction of Scotland, especially the island of Mull and Iona, written by Joan Fleming. We're going to come to some of these companies in a minute. Here's the book. Now, bearing in mind we have the prophecy of a beam of light being seen from the west coast of Ireland, and that prophecy being the end of the world. This picture of the book potentially depicts that, What the Future Holds, by Joan Fleming. This is Joan Fleming, and it says Joan Fleming was born and educated in Edinburgh, Scotland, again tying to Edinburgh. After university there, she became a teacher of French and German, so we now have a connection to German again. For a short period in London area, then she went in the west of Scotland, where Iona is in the west of Scotland. We've also got the Fleming Yachts Company on the left there, venture cruises to Iceland. The island of Iona, adjacent to Mull, was on the list of must-see places to visit. But as frequently the case, we were told, so we have a connection now to Fleming Yachts and Iona. On the right here, we have another Fleming connection to Iona, wildlife walks and walking tours on the Isle of Mull. Welcome to Mull Magic Wildlife Walks and Tours, established by former Wayfarers International Walking Tours director Ruth Fleming in 2005. So let's have a look at some of these companies. Here's the Fleming Collection on that artist article that we were looking at. And they were started in 2002, in January, not long after the World Trade Center disaster. And on the incorporation document, you have Swift Incorporations and Jordans Limited. So it's an illegal, fraudulent entity company that should never have been able to trade. Within the company, you've got Richard Schuster. I think that's a German name. I knew somebody in Bavaria because my wife and I was in Bavaria for about 8 months, actually. Which again, I don't think is, I think we're positioned. Someone was there. Someone was there with the surname of Schuster. So I don't know if that's German or not. But so they were appointed to that company in March 2022, as I'm making inquiries with my company, and they're linked to the Fleming Wyfold Art Foundation. Here's the Fleming Wyfold Art Foundation. They're also fraudulent. Swift Incorporations and Jordans on its left, on the incorporation document on the left. They're also linked to the Stonehage Fleming Overseas Limited Company. Now remember, this is an international system of fraud and crime, laundering money. Criminally obtained money can be defrauded from the public through the taxation system, but other means. Money obtained through drug trafficking, child trafficking, etc., and then laundered through this criminal system to overseas company accounts. Now, Stonehage Fleming had already featured in my fraud research previously. We've got Stonehage Fleming UK Limited as well. I'm just showing you some of them. Back into the Fleming collection, you have Celia Scott, appointed in March 2022. And they're linked to the Fleming Brand Incubation Limited Company. And on the incorporation documents for them, is when you make lots of links to James Bond. So you can see James Bond Enterprising Limited. But sorry, not lots of links, but you've got James Bond Enterprises, you've got then got lots of media companies, science and media. And also it looks like alcohol pub companies on there. Same director links to Poison Diaries. I thought that was interesting, so just put that. Bearing in mind what we're talking about here with suffering of humanity by these people. You've also got CAPB Limited linked to the same director. That's important. That features multiple times throughout the fraud. And when you go into that company, you'll see that it was started in 1931 or 1932, I believe, at the time of the Pharaoh resurgence, and then changed the company name in July 2001, same time, that same month at least, that Larry Silverstein purchased the lease for the World Trade Center disaster building. Sorry. You've also got links to JP Morgan. JP Morgan are all the way throughout the fraud, international banking fraud, and they're also linked to British Portland Cement. Now, Portland is the Isle of Portland is in Dorset. It's not far from Dorchester, which is where Poundbury is, that we mentioned on the last video, linking through to the royal family and the area there that's been with the royal family since the 14th century. And Fleming Collection, you've got James Knox, who resigned in March 2022. He's linked to the King's Foundation. Now remember, the Iona, right back at the beginning, the research said it was incredibly important for kings. Kings would be buried there, and it was a main point of Christianity, and was almost going to be, if it wasn't for Rome, the Christian capital, Western Christian capital. Very important location, and that explains the evidence in relation to Edinburgh potentially being the real Jerusalem. So here we have the King's Foundation now linked to them. It was called the Prince's Foundation up until December 2023. So I suspect the Queen's, if we believe it, death, and we'll come to that in a bit, is all related to this. She died supposedly on the 8th of September 2022 as this fraud is being exposed. Also, the war, or Vladimir Putin stated there would be a special military operation in February 2022. Well, that's as I'm making inquiries within my company about the fraud. So I suspect that was the start of, to lead up to what we are now seeing and potentially this prophecy. And you can see the Flemings' connection to Russia is pretty huge. But they're trying to hide it, and I suspect that all links into this prophecy, which should never be fulfilled. On the incorporation document, you have various royal connections. So the Queen Elizabeth Golden Jubilee Events Limited, and Duchy Company as well. We've already mentioned Duchy earlier. Back into the Fleming Collection. Remember, we're not far at all. We're just going back into the directors, looking at another director and looking at their companies. We have Jeffrey Richards is linked to, here we go, the James Bond Enterprises. Interestingly, he lives in Liechtenstein. James Bond Enterprises. Here's James Bond Enterprises, incorporated on the 19th of October 2000. This particular James Bond company. And it's fraudulent. Chettelbergs on the left there, you can see that's a fraudulent entity company. When you research it, it leads to a document that doesn't match the register. And the illegality continues through the documents, remember, and through the records. Here we have Corinne Turner. She's linked to a company called 1454 Limited. Quite an unusual name, so we're going to look why that may be called that in a minute. On the incorporation document, you have lots and lots of connections to media, I believe, ballet, Dead Sect Limited, interesting, Dead Sect, Night Nannies, UK, the Edinburgh International Television Festival Limited. Bearing in mind, Night Nannies, what we're talking about here with exploitation of children. Fleming Media. Okay, let's move on. So that date, 1454, what happened? What was significant? Well, it says here, what happened in 1454 was the 13 Years' War. The Secret Council of the Prussian Confederation sends a formal act of disobedience to the Grand Master and the citizens of Torori, rebel against the Teutonic Knights beginning the conflict, and it links to Poland. Now remember, the Knights are huge in all of this. The origin of this, the Freemasons appeared to have come from, I believe, the Knights Templar. Okay. This same director links to Film and General Productions Limited on the right. It's a fraudulent entity company, and it was incorporated in 1973, 2 years after the World Economic Forum. Medal management is on the incorporation document. Well, that doesn't match the register. Within the film and whatever that company was back there, the one we're looking at, you have Richard Watmore. He links to Colne Company. Right back at the beginning of the evidence and research, you had connections to Colne. Whether that is relevant or not, I don't know, but I've put it anyway. I would think it is, because you have Colne Valley Smokery Limited linked to the same director as KMFM Canterbury Limited. Remember, Colne links into the church, which also links to St. Columbas as well, and Germany from the research. And they were appointed before 1991, so the Gulf War again. So we'll come back to KMFM Canterbury Limited in a minute. Here's that smokery company, if I can find it. It was incorporated in 1974, 3 years after the World Economic Forum. And you can see the change of company names, the last one being August 2001, 1 month before the World Trade Center disaster, and not since, and it's an active company. And the name on the document is Stanley Davis on the incorporation document. Remember, we've already mentioned Stanley Davis Group. Here's Stanley Davis, links to the international fraud and to the research of the child trafficking. At the bottom, you also have Hart and Co. Well, they had already linked to the World Trade Center disaster via my research, and you can look at that in the World Trade Center document. So let's have a look at KMFM Canterbury Limited. When I saw that on this research, I knew I'd seen it, and we're going to see where, and it's because it links to the Archbishop of Canterbury very, very quickly. But on the actual incorporation document for it, it's fraudulent. It's a criminal company. The London Law Agency Limited. Remember, if you go and search the London Law Agency, you'll see London Law Agency in brackets at the end on the register. When you look at the incorporation document, it's actually Ganvalon Motors. That's never been registered. That means it should never have been trading. That means it's illegal, and the illegality continues through the documents. This name also features throughout the fraud at the top there, Michael John Hope. They use the same names, very likely a deceased person or false identities. Remember, there's no verification. The governments have deliberately allowed that to avoid accountability and liability for their criminal deception against humanity. And just to confirm, when you go into the KMFM company, you then hit Canterbury Cathedral Trust. Of course, remember, we're talking about connections through to the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby. And also the same director here links to the Air Ambulance Charity Kent, Surrey and Sussex. Well, that had already been featured specifically in the research regarding the Archbishop of Canterbury, and you can see that in the Archbishop of Canterbury document. And we're also going to touch base on that with the document called Before Iona, which I will publicise at some point after this, if we are all still around like we should be, because they are not supposed to fulfill this prophecy. Why would I be here saying this if that was the case? We need to bring about transparency and truth to the earth. I believe the people are awakening through the consciousness of Christ, or if you don't want to say Christ, then our Creator. So here's Fleming Yachts. Remember, we were looking at them earlier, which linked to Iona. So here we've got Fleming Yachts Europe Limited, and on the incorporation document you have Jordan's. It's not very easy to zoom in here. Jordan's Limited. Okay. It's the same company that's on the incorporation document for the company where I was removed for refusing to file forged bank documents. That company is Export Manor Freehold Limited. So this is information sent to me by another. I haven't corroborated or verified this. I'm purely showing you information sent to me by another. And this is by someone who was using a name because they didn't want to be identified, supposedly living in a van as well. We're going to show more evidence in relation to them later. But they provided information of the ninth circle linking to the Pope being involved, and also it mentions Justin Welby, the Archbishop of Canterbury, being linked to international child trafficking and the sacrifice of children. So you can pause that and read all of that if you want. Mentions Canada, which is very important. Again, I've got other evidence in relation to Canada. Mentions Wales. And it's talking about ritual sacrifices regarding the ninth circle. Here's another one, an article from this year, supposedly 2024. This was sent to me. Again, I don't know how genuine this is. This was only, I'm just showing it was sent to me. Satanic child sacrifice cult network and trafficking in Holland. European royals killing naked children for fun at human hunting parties. This is just what somebody sent me. And there was some images on a video that was sent. Appears to show Justin Welby. And also you can see the king in this picture and Camilla next to him. Again, I'm just showing you information that somebody has sent me. This is also contact from them, a WhatsApp screenshot. So in other evidence that they've sent me, you can see they've sent me various links there. And it talks again about the ninth circle. Catholic Black Mass halted in Geneva. A link to Geneva again, okay? Switzerland, Germany. After Pope Francis confronted by common law sheriffs, Pope illness cover story conceals incident and real purposes of papal visit, June 22nd, 2018. A breaking news communique from the Central Office of the International Tribunal of Crimes of Church and State. And it talks about officers, sheriffs trying to arrest the Pope, but being intervened, and actually them being arrested instead by security services and the police in Geneva. I'll let you read that, but it talks about satanic ritual abuse of children and that one of those planned satanic sacrifices may have been averted. Again, I'm just showing you what somebody else has sent me. This tells you what supposedly happened. Oh, you can pause this and read it all. Oh. That was supposedly in 2018. Now, around the time, I'm wondering why there's a picture of Ronald McDonald. Around the time of this, me being told about the ninth circle, which I'd never heard of, I then found evidence linking it to the circle of darkness. All sounds very evil stuff. But I had a dream that I went into a McDonald's restaurant, and I very rarely dream. This was a very vivid dream, and it was literally around the time of the ninth circle being mentioned. And when I was a child, I used to be taken to McDonald's for parties. I remember they had a fake plastic tree in McDonald's in Chatham. This was in Chatham in Kent, where I was born. And going to children's parties there and stuff like that. And I had this dream that I was in a McDonald's restaurant and I seemed comfortable and happy. And suddenly, and I don't know what changed, I had this massive feeling of deceit. A change to then fear, deceit, and an overwhelming feeling of terror, really. And it was very unusual for me to even have that. And it woke me up, and I was up about 5 or 6 in the morning from that point on, because it had stuck in my mind so much. So anyway, I'd had that dream, and that very same morning, I typed in the ninth circle. And this is what I got on the right. And this is showing you the actual image. So you can see the date that I took the image. So that's me looking into the details of the image on my device. And you can see that, 29th of November. And the very first thing that comes up is a clown. Art the Clown. The ninth circle. Okay, I'm going to show you why I think it's so important. So here's the full article, screenshot of the article on the left. Or the research that comes up when you search the ninth circle. and wiki, and you can do that and you'll see these articles. Art the Clown. So what does it say about Art the Clown? So Art the Clown is a fictional character and the primary antagonist in the Terrifier franchise and related media. Created by Damien Leone, the character first appeared in the short films The Ninth Circle in 2008 and Terrifier in 2011. I'd never seen these. Both shorts were included in the anthology film of All Hallows Eve. Remember earlier we had Macintosh Eve Company, I believe. Is it Macintosh? Yeah. 2015, which marked the character's feature film debut. In these early appearances, he was portrayed by Mike Glanelli. Before his retirement from acting, he was replaced by David Howard Thornton, who portrayed Art in Terrifier 2016, Terrifier 2 2022, and Terrifier 3 2024. So we had an immediate connection to clowns and the Ninth Circle. It was so vivid to me that I mentioned it again later. And what prompted me to mention it is I was in the, if you look back at my other parts of this, you would see that I was in the churchyard at Moy Loch in Scotland on the 6th of December. And this is a screenshot showing you that I even mentioned it when I was there, because I saw these gravestones with McDonald's on them and Macintosh on them, and something was telling me it was related to my dream. So I actually put, who started McDonald's restaurants? And I put, my clown dream is seeming possibly important again. Okay, and we found out that these people had started it. So let's look at this a little bit more. Well, then you think about the red shoe side of things. Remember, Ronald McDonald had red shoes, which is there. Look, you can see them in the picture. Also, interestingly, also just popped up on my TikTok without me even thinking about it. It just came up, and I haven't been looking or anything like that. It came up with the most expensive items sold from film. From film. So props. I keep wanting to say plot. Props within films, and the most expensive film. I'm forgetting it again. Film plot prop. Oh my goodness, prop. Most expensive film prop was the shoes worn by the character in The Wizard of Oz. Okay, let that sink in. It's huge. So anyway, if you type in Red Shoe Club, because I'd already heard about it being linked to the child trafficking, it comes up with Ronald McDonald House Charities. The Red Shoe Society is a group of like-minded philanthropists committed to supporting Ronald McDonald House Charities of Greater Las Vegas. Now, I'd heard about this before. These are images that come up when you search Red Shoe Club. I'd seen the image on the top left before. Supposedly, it's Tony Podesta and his brother, I believe, stood next to Madeleine McCann's father, Gerald McCann. So I'm told. I can't tell. I'm not too sure. But they're all wearing red shoes according to that image. There's also an image here on the right of the Pope, apparently wearing red shoes, which ties in with the information I've got. Here's another article in relation to McDonald's. Ronald McDonald House Charities and the Red Shoe Society. Now, bearing in mind, McDonald's were talking about burgers, and they've, pretty much most countries around the world, aren't they? Massive, absolutely massive. Everywhere you go in the UK, certainly. Burgers, child trafficking. You know what I'm thinking. Anyway, let's search Ronald McDonald House. And it comes up with these companies. Ronald McDonald House Charities UK. On the right, you can see it's East Finchley in London. The original names for the company were Project Broad when it started in 1988. And then it changed its name to Ronald McDonald Children's Charities Limited from 1989 to 2006. And that's a fraudulent criminal company. Swifting Corporations and Jordan's and Sons Limited. If we go into that company, Jeffrey Fergus links to McDonald Restaurants Limited on the right. McDonald's Restaurants Limited was started in 1971, the same year as the World Economic Forum. That is no coincidence. According to the register, its original name was McDonald's Hamburgers Limited in 1971 till 1989. On the incorporation document, it allows me to zoom in. Sorry about that. McDonald's Golden Arches Restaurants. So that's a fraudulent illegal entity company. Back in with the Ronald McDonald's House Company, we have Andrew Moyes. He links now to Royal Companies, Royal Voluntary Service Company. And it's linked to, bottom left-hand corner, Farrer and Co. That's the same company that is linked to Ghislaine Maxwell and therefore international child trafficking. This person, Philip Evans, also links to other royal companies. So you've got Queen Elizabeth's Training College for the Disabled, registered around the same time as the Gulf War. Queen Elizabeth's Foundation for Disabled People. We've also got RBS Corporate Finance Limited, so Royal Bank of Scotland. Here's the Royal RBS Corporate Finance Limited, dissolved in 2019, same year as the outbreak. And they've got ICC company formations. That already links to Robert Maxwell, the research regarding Robert Maxwell and therefore Ghislaine Maxwell. Back into the Ronald McDonald's House Charity Company, you have a Lord, so we have a link to politics. Lord Harris of Peckham. And they are linked to the Arsenal Football Club Limited. Remember, I've said football clubs are massively part of this. Tony Roberts is linked to AFC Bournemouth Football Club, which is massively part of this fraud. Football clubs appear to be, most of them, fraudulent. This is no different. The Arsenal Football Club Limited, one of the biggest football clubs in the world, certainly in the UK, and it's fraudulent. Ooh. See its original name here, the Great Universal Stores Public Limited Company from 1917. Are we looking at the right one? No, looking at the wrong one. Go back. The Arsenal Football Club, 1910. It should have been called the Arsenal Football Club Public Limited Company. See where they changed the name? In April 2023. As I was exposing the fraud publicly, they changed the name. Okay, for the first time since 1910, realizing what was happening, and they were being exposed, and it's a fraudulent company. You can see on the right there, the incorporation document is different than the register. Now remember, control and manipulation of the public involves credit scoring them, okay, to stop them having access to certain things if they haven't got a good enough credit score. Well, here's Experian Finance PLC, linked to that same director. Experian Finance PLC. Original name of Great Universal Stores Public Limited Company, according to the register, from 1917 until July 2001. That's the same month that Larry Silverstein purchased the lease for the World Trade Center building, and they didn't change the name again until 2006. So you can see that ties in with the World Trade Center disaster, and it's an illegal, fraudulent company linked to Jordan's and Sons. You can see the company name is different than the register. Moving on, the same director is then linked to the Outward Bound Global Company. Some of you may know that was linked via a report to Jimmy Savile. When I've researched those companies, the Outward Bound, it goes back into the Freemasons and the royal family, Prince Andrew and Princess Anne, very, very quickly. International criminal fraud, several Freemason companies from the Outward Bound group. And there's quite a harrowing story of two people claiming to have been sexually abused when they were children on the Outward Bound camp, but also having seen a girl being murdered who the police were not even interested in, and they were just interested in finding these two people, probably to silence them. We're going to come to part 6 next, to show more evidence. God bless you all. Take care. Bye bye.